few years ago, I produced the Fundamentalist Christian Creed, which summarizes the commonly held beliefs among Protestant North American fundamentalists. So I thought it would be interesting to make a video and to work through the Fundamentalist Christian Creed. Let's begin then with the beginning. So, notably, the fundamentalist Christian creed begins not with God, as let's say the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed do, but rather with the Bible, which for the fundamentalist is the foundation of Christian belief, conviction, and authority. I believe in an inerrant Bible, literally interpreted or interpreted literally, word for word. Now, of course, this is not actually true. Fundamentalists don't interpret the entirety of the Bible word for word when Jesus says, gouge out your eye, for it is better to go into heaven with one eye than into hell with both eyes. They don't interpret that literally. But they do interpret certain passages literally, such as passages, sort of portions, I should say, of Genesis 1, where it talks about creation in a quote unquote literal 6 days, or they will interpret a literal 1,000 years, millennium in Revelation 20. But of course, vast tracts of the rest of the Bible, they don't interpret literally. And then we turn to I believe in creation in 6 literal days. So, right there you go, and that evolution is false and of the devil. So part of your creed is to be committed to the falsity, and indeed, not just that it is false, but that it is a malevolent deception, the idea of biological evolution. Christians should watch movies with a clear gospel message. So this is part of a evangelical, fundamentalist subculture that is suspicious of quote unquote secular movies. Now, this can shift, right? Like, obviously, many fundamentalists go to just general movies, but there's also a general skepticism about Hollywood and a belief in supporting what are quote unquote Christian movies and right wing cable news that supports socially conservative politics. So you watch Fox News, right? You don't watch MSNBC. They believe in the right to bear arms. So the idea that you should have access to guns is pretty basic to Christian devotion and discipleship. And that God has a special plan for Israel. Some years ago, I visited a church in Colorado, a large church in Colorado, just outside of Denver. And they had on the platform of the church, right behind the pulpit, an American flag, which right there for Christian who believes that nationalism is a scourge on Christian identity. That's very concerning. But they had an American flag and an Israel flag on the platform. And the church actually had, as part of its confessional statement, the importance of supporting Israel to do whatever they believe is necessary to secure their own security. So, unwavering support for the government of Israel was part of that church's belief in Christian discipleship and Christian identity, and they have a right to protect themselves from Muslim aggression and settle the occupied territories. Of course, we've seen that in the last 2 years with the ongoing defenses. I saw it just this morning when I watched a Republican politician defend comments he had previously made about nuking Gaza. And he said in this interview on CNN just this morning, he actually would not support nuking Gaza because it would kill the Israeli hostages and there would also be fallout that would affect Israel. And those are the only two stipulations that this politician, his name was Randy Fine, those are the only two stipulations he gave against nuking Gaza. That's I don't know if he's probably a Christian confessing, but that would be an example of the toxicity of the fundamentalist Christian creed. I believe there are two genders. Gay marriage, transgender bathrooms, and abortion are evil. Climate change is not caused by humans, or, I mean, if it is, then there's just nothing we can do about it because it's the imminent end of the world anyway. Vaccine mandates are evil. I mean, it's incredible how this has become since COVID, this new opposition to vaccines, this vaccine skepticism that has gone mainstream in the last 4 to 5 years, and that we should keep Christ in Christmas. Of course, that's a standard one that you always see. that men are God's chosen leaders in the church and home, so you always have to have a patriarchal element within this confession. People who die as non-Christians go to hell where they suffer forever, along with Christian liberals and other woolly culture compromisers. So if you haven't prayed a sinner's prayer, you go to hell. And so do Christian liberals who are not really Christians, they are deceivers. But God's church will be raptured to heaven before earth and everything in it is destroyed. So there's kind of a version of dispensationalism here and a very otherworldly view where the church is going to be saved out of this world and then the world will be destroyed, which, of course, among other things, also undercuts any commitment to environmental stewardship. Amen. And so the creed ends. So that is my example of the fundamentalist Christian creed, a list of things that you will not find in the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed or other major creeds or confessions or catechisms of the historic Orthodox Christian Church, but which have become definitional in North American 20th and 21st century fundamentalism, or at least specifically Protestant fundamentalism. So that's my idea. I'd be interested to hear in the comments below your thoughts as to what would be in a fundamentalist Christian creed.